All right, let's talk about a clause in your term sheet that sounds, honestly, kind of boring, but has the power to completely change the future of your company. We're talking about pro rata rights.
See, this one little phrase, it's a real sleeper. Most founders just scan right past it, but it can end up dictating who controls your cap table, who gets a ticket to your future funding rounds, and really how much freedom you have to grow. It is the classic case of the fine print having massive consequences.
So, in this explainer, we're going to decode this thing. By the time we're done, you'll know exactly what it is, the hidden dangers, and most importantly, how to negotiate it like a pro. So you can be sure you're building your company on your terms, not someone else's. Okay, let's just get right to it. It sounds super technical and jargony, but the idea behind it is actually incredibly simple once you pull it apart. That is it. Seriously. In plain English, it just means if an investor owns, say, 5% of your company today, this right gives them the option, not the obligation, but the option to put in more money in your next round, just enough to stay at that exact same 5%. They get to keep their slice of the pie the same size, even as the whole pie gets a lot bigger.
And right there, that's where you see the fundamental tension, right? For an investor, it makes perfect sense. They took a huge risk on you early on, and they want to protect that bet. But for you, the founder, it's a promise that can really tie your hands later on, basically reserving a seat at the table for a past investor. Now, don't get me wrong, having a key investor who wants to double down is a massive vote of confidence. The real trick is knowing when that signal is worth giving up your future flexibility. And believe me, this tension doesn't just stay on paper. Let's walk through a real-world scenario that happens all the time, just to see how this simple little clause can create a huge headache for you down the road.
So, picture this. You just closed your seed round. High fives all around. It's a massive milestone. As part of the deal, you grant one of your key investors who now owns 10% of your company full pro rata rights. At the time, it seems like a totally fair, standard request. No big deal.
Okay, now let's hit the fast forward button. 2 years fly by. You've executed like crazy, you've hit your milestones, the company is on fire. And now you're ready for that big Series A to pour some serious fuel on that fire. And this is the exact moment that tiny decision from 2 years ago snaps right back into focus. Your dream VC, a top-tier firm you've wanted to work with for years, comes to the table. They love what you're building, they want to lead the round, and they want to take a clean 15% stake. Here's the problem. Your early investor has the legal right to buy up their 10% of this new round, which eats directly into the space your new lead investor wants.
And that is the friction. All of a sudden, you're in this terrible position of trying to manage the promises you made to past investors against the demands of a new partner who could change the entire trajectory of your company. This isn't just awkward. This friction can make a top-tier VC look at your cap table, decide it's too messy, and just walk away from the deal entirely.
Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a serious one. But, and this is a big but, you are not powerless here. So let's flip this around and talk about the solution. Let's get into a clear, actionable playbook for you as a founder. You have to remember, pro rata doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing thing. You've got options. You can negotiate to cap the duration, so the right only applies for the very next round, and that's it. You can limit the amount, so maybe they can only exercise pro rata on, say, half of their original investment. Or you can even make them conditional, meaning only investors who stay involved and keep adding value get to keep the right.
So how do you actually say this in a negotiation? You can use a line just like this one. It's so powerful because you're framing it as a strategic pro-company move. You're not saying no to the investor. You're saying yes to protecting the company's future, which, by the way, is good for everyone. Or here's another one you can keep in your back pocket. This approach is super respectful and collaborative. It keeps the door open for future conversations, which shows you value the relationship, but you're still holding the line and protecting your cap table in this round. It's all about being firm, not adversarial. It also really helps to know the playing field. Your big institutional VCs and your lead investors, yeah, they're going to ask for this almost every time. And frankly, they usually have the leverage to get it. But for those smaller angel checks, maybe around $25,000, that's where you're in a much stronger position to push back and say, hey, thanks, but we need to keep the cap table clean.
You know, at the end of the day, every single one of these tactics comes back to one simple goal: protecting your long-term vision. A clean, well-managed cap table isn't just about spreadsheets and percentages. It's about freedom. It's about maintaining the flexibility to build the company you dream of with the partners you choose to bring along for the ride. So what do you do right now? What are your immediate next steps? First, go pull up every safe, every convertible note, every agreement you have ever signed. Find every single pro rata clause and make a list. Get a crystal clear picture of who has what rights. And most importantly, create your strategy for your next fundraising round before you take a single meeting. In these negotiations, being prepared isn't just an advantage, it's everything. And that leaves us with one final, big question for you to think about. I want you to look at your own company, your own documents, and your vision for the future. Because every clause you sign is either a tool to help you build or a trap waiting to be sprung. So ask yourself, is your cap table built for the massive growth you're planning, or have you accidentally set a trap that's going to snap shut in your next round?